Hello, everyone. I'm David, and I'm here with Okantumi,
Yes.
aka Gina. Gina, aka Otami. She's a target individual since birth. She's got a very alarming and horrible story to tell. I'm sad that um, she's even here today to tell it. Um, I don't even know how to introduce that. You know what we've talked about before this happened. Um, anyway, so before I do that, so this GPS video. There's been a lot of controversy on this. I put the video there to show there's GPS tracking in the car. I didn't do it for views. And I cut the comments off because there was 2,000 comments. I'm getting notifications on my phone. My channel is not for people who's wants to talk about. I shouldn't have put the video up there, but I did. And I got all these comments of people. And I tried to explain. This is for target individuals. I answer all my comments that pertain to targets. It's about helping target individuals. I didn't mean that video got 4 million views. I didn't mean it to go viral. I don't care about I love my supporters, but I'm not here for subscribers. I'm here to expose the truth and help anybody I can. So anyway, sorry about that, Regina.
Yes.
I mean Gina.
That's okay. All right. So, as he said,
Sorry.
I'm a targeted individual from birth. The reason being is my parents got married at a time when it was illegal to be biracial couples in this country, and my father was a political activist. So, they were targeted for those reasons, and me being born to them got on the targeting roster as well. I was targeted as a child. My mother had trauma as a growing up. So she was exposed to pre-exposed to a lot of violence, and in turn I was exposed to a lot of violence growing up. And I'm here today though to talk about the death of my son 3 weeks ago. As a targeted individual, we were both targeted. I handle targeting different than he does. We all handle our pains different, and because he handled it the way he did, he was very passive. Um, it made them easier to hit him until he died. So, with that being said, what happened with my son, he was 32, the nicest kid you'd want to know. A lot of the target people, um, the females know him, and they all thought he was a sweetheart. What happened is that he was getting hit a lot. I mean, around the clock. And what happened was that they kept hitting him in the chest and stomach, and he wasn't feeling well. He was a type 1 diabetic. So that doesn't help, and other ailments as well. What happened is that they kept hitting him. And after a while, he started having respiratory distress like this, just like that. I came into the room. I said, Rael, you need to go to the hospital. You know, you're not breathing right. And he suffered from V2K. He said, they're constantly putting intrusive thoughts in my head. They're constantly, you know, telling me things and stuff. And I'd say, ignore them, move around, put music on, put on frequencies. But it was a struggle for him. So that day, they were probably telling him not to move because quite often when they hit him, he would just lie there. And I'd say, get up. A sitting duck is a dead duck. You got to zigzag. You got to move around. Make it hard for them to hit you. And all he would say while he was in respiratory distress was, I want to sleep. I said, oh no, you're not dying in here. So I went into my room. It was 4:30 in the morning. And I said, okay, Gina, this is going to be a long night. So within 10 minutes, I started getting ready. I heard a thump where I live in an apartment building. I thought the ceiling came in. My son was lying backwards with his eyes up in his head with that weird breathing, head in the cat box, knocked out. 250 pounds, but he wasn't like a flubby. He was a solid kid. I ran and said, Ray Ray, are you okay? Are you here? No response. I ran to the phone. I called 911. Now, this is what I just learned. And now I know there's a program called Cousin Nancy. This is what they did on me. So you targeted people when you know you get weird stuff, or when 911, this is how they operate. So I called 911. I said I needed an ambulance. My son was semi-conscious. I don't know what's wrong. He's not breathing. They give me the hello, What's the problem? I said, my just told you my son's unconscious, blah, blah, blah. Where do you live? They ask for the cross streets. Then they tell me, hold on. I said, hold on. I live on the Upper West Side for people who know New York. I live 13 blocks straight, no turns, nothing from the hospital. That's less than 5 minutes in a car. Okay. I get on the, they reconnect me to an ambulance way up in the Bronx. I said, where are you located? He said, in the Bronx. I said, oh, no, that's not going to work. He asked me the same exact questions she did. And that's when I said to him, what's your badge number? You should have had that information. And hung up. I called back. They said, oh, it's you. So within 10 to 15 minutes, they wrote 5 minutes, which is not true. An ambulance, I guess, comes downstairs. I'm on the 6th floor in the back. I get a knock. It's two males from the fire department with no equipment. I show them where he is. They sit around discussing how they're going to pick him up because my bathroom's narrow, my hall is narrow, my house is dirty because I'm rearranging stuff and blah, blah, blah. And da-da-da. I said, oh my God, this kid is dying. What are you going to do? So they got a sheet and they dragged him. They opened up my door and dropped him in front of my door. There
Wow.
was no equipment out there except a monitor and electrodes. Nothing, no air, nothing. So this chick now there was two EMS and two fire department. They do that because they don't want you to sue because of the Good Samaritan law, which holds them in immunity for what they seem to do. Anyhow, to make a long story short, they started doing the electrodes. She said his sugar was 700. I said, do you have insulin? No. Are you going to put air on him? We don't do that. I said, well, what are you here for? We give fluids. I said, that's not good enough. And I started questioning her. She got nasty with me. I cursed her out. She called the police on me. What she should have done was call for medical backup because medically, these people were not on the ball. They didn't know what they were doing at all.
And they should have got
So,
insulin immediately.
yes, nothing, no air, and he couldn't breathe. To make matters worse, they kept him on the floor for 35 minutes because they couldn't figure out why, if they went downstairs to get a chair. Well, you can't put him in a chair. Went back downstairs and said, well, let's get a gurney. But they couldn't figure out how to put him on the gurney. So they told him in an unconscious state to sit up and breathe. Sit up and breathe.
Wow.
Finally, after 35 minutes, to 40 minutes almost, they opened up the gurney and put him on it. But they told him to hug himself so they could put the sheet around him. And that took another 15 minutes. So they were on my floor for 49 minutes. By the time they got downstairs, they wouldn't let me on the elevator with them. They wouldn't let me in the ambulance. According to the report, within 2 minutes, his pulse stopped. And by the time he got to the hospital, he was in cardiac arrest, and that's technically dead. When they brought him in the hospital, 73 minutes later, from a 13-block radius, the head of the ER comes over to me within 5 minutes and says, he's gone. He doesn't say dead, but we'll work on him. He died 27 minutes later officially. The death certificate does not show a location where he died. There's no line there at all for that, nor cause of death. This was all a hit. My boy just won 3 years worth of back pay from SSI because years prior to that, he was beaten by the cops and we won the case. So somebody who is also a targeted individual said that was a hit on your son. And it was done to get to me because I am an activist and I have a big mouth. I have a megaphone, I give out flyers, and I take a lot of pictures which are detrimental to this program that we are all facing. So basically, that's my story. My son is dead. It's going on 3 weeks. They ripped my heart out of my chest. That was my closest person. I have another son, but we have a different type of relationship, and I love him too. But they took my heart from me to get to me.
I'm so sorry that happened. And I've heard so many stories where that's what they do, that, whether it be cat, um, mother, father. I've heard so many stories where they take them out to take what's at your heart. Um, and anybody who's watching this right now knows if it would have been Megan Fox, Donald Trump, they would have had him out of there and healed within minutes. Don't you agree?
Yes.
So I mean, anybody who I mean, there's no question about it. That was some foul play there, and I'm sorry you went through that. Is
How long was he targeted?
How long? Oh, he was targeted since birth too. They're multi-generational targets.
Yes.
So you were expressing that you do have some ESP abilities.
Yeah,
You were
I don't
born with
see
it.
it as that. I have a like a photographic memory for
Yeah, you're very
detail.
smart as a kid.
Yes, and they used to take me out of school like at 4 years old, kindergarten every 2 days to test my abilities and my mind and stuff in the public school. And they
And
find
that's when MK Ultra was going on
right,
rampant. When it
right.
really,
Yes, I was beaten a lot by my mother because she was traumatized. So she used to do things like tie me up and put papers around it and burn it, and my brother would come save me. So eventually they put my mother in a they tried to put her in a mental institution and have the Jewish foster system remove me from the home, but it was deemed my mother wasn't crazy. She was traumatized, but she wasn't crazy. So she came back home. Oh, this is interesting though. Years later, I put myself in therapy. I said, I need therapy, right? I'm crazy. I need therapy from all this shit. The therapist was a Jesuit gay woman. She finally took a vow of silence after she did this last. She did a number on me. She told me, she tried to convince me that my father raped me as a
wow,
child in a session. She said, you know, your father raped you. And then after that, she disappeared and took a vow of silence, and I never went back. So all this stuff, with my parents, that proves even then they were still trying to dig. They killed both of my parents, by the way. They were trying to dig and figure out ways to put that seed of shit with my parents, even in me and came home. My father was alive. I said, Daddy, the therapist said you raped me. He just looked at me and grinned. I said, I don't know. That's what she said, and left it at that. But she was a Jesuit. I never saw a female Jesuit priest. And she went in after that. She said, I'm taking a vow of silence and I'm not talking anymore.
wow. So do
Mm-hmm.
you think that when they kept doing all that stuff to you to get you to give up on life?
Yes, because I did go through a dark period where I hated myself.
Oh,
And
me
I
too.
used, yes, I went through a very dark period. And I know that was part of the program too. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through a bitterness where I was like, well, everybody's against me, so I'm gonna be mean to everybody. I was bitter. And I
Yes.
had to get out of that bitter. So that's another thing target individuals try to get, don't let yourself become bitter. Don't never let them take the love from you because they want you on a negative vibration. And
Yes.
the love vibration is a very positive vibration. And if they can get that out of you, they've won.
Yes, that is true. And it's a struggle for me because I really loved that boy and they took him from me. So I'm on the war
Mm,
path. I want justice. And most of the people that I went to try to take the case, the first thing they said is you have a case, but we're not taking it because you're going up against the government.
wow.
And I'd say, really? And by the way, I filmed everything. I have everything on film. Every last thing they did to incriminate them. And people are still saying, yeah, we saw it. Yeah, you have a case, but we're not touching it. It's the government.
Right.
So, that means that these people have contracts with the government and sometimes probably serve their people as well and don't want to jeopardize stuff.
Could you explain the attacks on you and your son that happened just briefly, like a V2K attack or
Okay,
the
yeah, my
energy
son,
attacks,
yes, my
like the
son,
nausea you was explaining?
yes, what they would do prior to his death is both of us, they would hit us with these nausea frequencies, which are very severe. You vomit your guts, there's nothing to vomit, bile, and then you can't eat, and it's painful. They do those frequencies with me, and they were doing that with me and my son. I monitor the frequencies. Whenever they hit me, I use apps to show the levels that they're using,
Yeah, the
Um,
EMF meters.
Yes. Yeah, and there's some that are good, some aren't, but I find the ones I do are good. And the thing is, people need to know too. What they do is like if you have metal, if you have your windows, the window sills, the doorknobs, the doorways, that's what they beam off of because it's metal, it heats up. So like if you were to have somebody come in and just measure your air, It might not show on the meter in your ear, but if you actually touch the windowsill or the door frame because it's metal, you'll see that they're hitting you with radiation. So, they'd hit me with directional energy weapons, biochemicals, through the eye, left eye in particular, itching to make it go through the eye and whatever they're going to do. They've bombarded me with that. They've bombarded me with all kinds of directional energy. I have pictures, my whole back is ripped up from that. They like to hurt my legs. They do this thing where I call it catch a end by the toe, because they like to make my toe feel like they're tying a knot and twisting it till there's no more circulation in it, especially when I want to go out, like to monitor me. So, I don't know. I know I have a chip in my breast because I was there when I had a biopsy. The doctor didn't even want to give me the biopsy. She said, there's nothing there. The technician said, you better do it. And they put a chip in my breast. So that much I know. I don't know about anywhere else. Could be, could not.
And could you kind of explain what he was saying was happening as far as his V2K? Because I
Yes.
get V2K, like, they were
Yes.
telling me this interview right here was going to be a disaster and all that. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
they do different stuff. They degrade me, they threaten me, they
Yes.
make me hear people in the walls. It's not they can do a lot of stuff with the V2K.
Yes, they do that. Yes, my son was a victim of V2K. He said they're putting intrusive thoughts in my head. They could read my they could even read my passwords, he would say. He wouldn't tell me what they were saying, but you could tell because he would talk out loud a lot prior to this. And then all of a sudden he stopped doing that. He was doing that for about 3 years straight. He was talking back to them, and people would think, like, oh, he's crazy. But in retrospect, they were V2King him.
Well,
They were V2King him, and he would try to reason with them. And after a while, he just got silent and would go, shh, because he couldn't fight it anymore. He just couldn't. It's like he resigned himself to it.
yeah.
He just
Wow.
couldn't
Do
fight it
you
anymore.
have you ever heard of the GATE program? Because when you were coming up, you said you were very smart. I think maybe they would have. Maybe you were in the GATE pro. It was gifted and talented education. Well, they did a covert program like that where they didn't let nobody know they were studying these people.
That's what they were doing. And I have the university that was involved in that. Because
Yeah.
yes, it was a university that did the studies on me. They're also realtors. And part of the issue I have now, because I'm in a rent stabilized apartment, they want me out. So what happens is realtors in general will do things like hire privatized contractors that are engaged in the type of programs we're in and say, we don't care what you do, just get them out the apartment and we'll give you a perk. And they do things like give them free apartments for a while, cards, and I have pictures all over here peripherally of what
So
they
they
do.
do noise campaigns and all kinds of stuff to get you
Yeah,
out
but
of
the
here.
worst thing is when you see them shooting you and they don't give a damn. That's the worst. When you have it on film with them using the equipment and shit, they don't care.
Would you say they're trying to run you out of the apartment?
They don't care if they kill me, run me out, because then they can destabilize this and it would be a market value. So that's part of it. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. Yeah, it's a big part of it. These contractors on my floor alone, over 5 women died from cancer, breast cancer, all rent stabilized. Duh, I don't think that's a accident.
Nope.
5 women, all rent stabilized, and that's going on throughout the building. The problem is a lot of people don't want to face this, and a lot of people think if they're quiet, it won't affect them. No, they didn't get to your names yet, yo. They didn't get to your names yet, boo-boo. They will, because this is a depopulation protocol.
Right. And you mentioned before you've been in the community a long time. Could you explain to viewers some ways that you use to cope when you're getting hit, when you're getting gang stalked? Just some
Well,
tips.
I get gang stalked now. I have one gang stalker. I made him become my friend to confess. I said, you gonna tell me you a gang stalker? I used to bother him every day when he followed me around.
And he confessed?
Yes, he did. He said they gave him attorney general named Susan Badger. Susan Badger, Attorney General in real estate, said she didn't like our kind because I'm mixed. My kids are mixed.
Right.
We ain't white. She said we do away with them. She gave him, he said she gave him $1,200 to drive me crazy. But he started liking me because I was spunky, and nobody's ever went to the gang stalkers and said, you going to tell me.
Right. I've been trying to find out for years. I
I
even
did.
got close to some people and I'm like, look, I know you're in on it. You just admit it and they won't admit it.
You got to know how to do it. See, because I knew how to break it. I don't know. I was lucky. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't stop. I was like, because every time I said, you going to tell me, he would run. And then finally one day he said, I can't take it no more because you're a nice woman. I got to tell you the truth. He said, they paid me to drive you crazy.
Wow.
I said, will you tell that to the borough president? He said, yes. I took him to the borough president. I said, look, he's a gang stalker. He's willing to confess. Do I have a case? No, because that's not a harassment thing. Harassment is when they break your sink or something else. They would not touch it.
I
They said,
wish we could get him on for an interview.
I haven't seen him. I don't even know if he's alive, to tell you the truth. He was in the neighborhood. The last time I saw him was about 2 years ago. He would, if I don't know if he, I don't even know if he's around anymore. I haven't seen him at all.
Right. So
Because
what's
he
your
had,
tips towards to any tips on how you deal with stuff like when you're getting hit or gang stalked? Do you have any tips for new target individuals that may be watching this?
yes. If you are noticing that they're doing gestures, do it back to them. They hate that. Or if you see, like, for instance, if they rub the nose to make you upset, I go up to them with a tissue and say, you need a tissue. Something's wrong with your nose. They hate that because you're busting the energy that they, you got to say, like I'll say out loud, do you need a tissue, sweetheart? Because you're rubbing your nose. That throws them off their game because they're focused on something. The other thing is that you outstare them because they don't like to look at people that they're targeting.
Right.
Outstare them. You have to do stuff like that, like outstare them. That's my phone. I'll leave it alone. You have to outstare them. Colors. If you see colors all the time, you have to start training your mind to say, okay, they playing on with me. They want me to react this way. You got to reprogram yourself if you want to make it. I'm still gang stalked. They gang stalked me the other day. And I said, they were doing a spitting thing. And I would tell them, I said, don't spit. You're so nasty. You're so, ugh. I said, and I said, plus you're spreading germs. If there's a cop here, whether he's part of your program or not, I'm going to tell him you spit. You got to stand up to them because they want you to run away. I don't mean do stupid stuff. And you don't have to be on top of them. You can say it out loud because they don't want attention. They do
Yeah.
not want attention. They want to do this quiet, drive you crazy until you look loony, and then they just get rid of you. That's how this works because they want you to do it to yourself. That's why they call it no hands, no touch, silent kill. So you
Right.
do it. So they say, we ain't do it. She went crazy.
And the bad thing about sensitization, that's what I call it, when you're
Yes.
sensitized to colors. Like if I do my note, I've even had somebody say, "Well, you scratch your nose on YouTube. I know you're a perp. My perps do that." You got to learn how to see through the sensitization. You got to learn to see, hey,
Right.
this is a gang stalker scratching his nose, and this is just somebody whose nose is itching. You know what I'm
You
saying?
have to know the difference. Yes, because it's hard, but this is something you have to discern. You have to discern. You have to discern it, or else you're going to start being paranoid and thinking everybody. And it's not easy, but after a while, you'll know who's a perp and who's not a perp.
Yep.
We are all under attack. Even everybody's under attack and don't even know it. Some of these people, I'm so trained right now. I can look at you and say, "Oh, you're being hit with radiation because of the way you walk, or you're bent over too young. They hitting you." But people don't want to accept it. But for those of you who are going through sensitizing right now, you have to reprogram yourself. You have to say, okay, Sue, this is, everybody in the whole country ain't a perp because they scratch it. I even scratch my nose. You have to say to yourself that you scratch your nose. Does that make you a perp? You have to, and if they are a perp, who the fuck cares? Scratch, you know what I tell them? Scratch your ass next, motherfucker. I've done that too. I have done that too. I'd be like, yo, scratch your ass next. Or the other thing you can do, which is really subtle and they hate, you take your two fingers like this and go like this. Oh, that drives them crazy. because you're doing it back at them and they think there's a counter thing on them. You got to know how to deal with these people. It's a psyops. That means it's a mind game. They're trying to mess with your mind because they want you fear-based. Once you're fear-based and they start zapping you and shit, it's a wrap.
Yep.
It is a freaking wrap.
And it makes sense why you're multi-generational targeted is because you came from a mixed family way back in the day when they didn't like that. So of
It
course
was
you're going to get
illegal.
targeted.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
illegal.
illegal.
People got in jail for that. I'm 67, so that was in the 50s.
Yep.
It was illegal.
They were really experimenting then.
Yes. Yes. Well, they still are, but it's subtle.
Have they ever sent honeypots your way?
Oh, yes. That's how I got into this Pegasus, blue Pegasus. Yes, I did. And I was in mourning because my parents both were dying. One was in one room, one was in the other. And I was going to school because I promised them I wouldn't put them in hospice. And I went on this dating site called Tango Wire. And they sent me 3 guys, all named Bob. They were all young and cute. And I said, I know you don't want this old lady. I used to say, are you vampires? Are you demon worshipers? I knew something wasn't right. But that's how they put me in the that Holland program through honeypots. Now they never actually showed themselves, but they showed 3 pictures and they weren't the same. They lived in those peripheral apartments that I told you about.
Wow.
One was in Las Vegas and he came to New York. One was over there. And I have nicknames for them so I know who identify them. But yeah, they tried that on me. Now I'm not interested. I'm on a whole other mission. This shit's got to stop, and I need justice for my son.
What do you do when they're hitting you with weapons?
First of all, I say, get the fuck off of me. I don't consent. You're violating my human and civil rights. And I move away from the area.
Yep.
I move away. I have to tie up my face every night. I use EMS tape. You put it on and magnets. Does it help 100%? No. And EDTA. They even have a soap. Zeolite, all
yeah,
those
we got
things.
zeolite, and we've heard a lot about EDTA too.
I got an EDTA soap. Does it stop them? No, but it'll help keep the metals out of your system. And what I'm doing now too is the baking soda, but I got organic baking soda. The organic baking soda and water, it does help because the whole thing is that these bombardments cause inflammation. Inflammation is what causes illness and pain. So you want to do things to keep your inflammation down to a minimum. You know, you research, everybody's not the same. Some things work for some people don't. Yep. Because they may tweak it to your brain, that frequency. I even have the room that they use across the yard that has those computers. You know, so you have to figure out, but you have to use you have to do a lot of detoxing, constant, body, mind, and spirit, constantly. And you got to learn not to panic.
Yep, that's some good advice.
You got to stay calm because they want you out of your freaking.
When you panic, you make mistakes.
Yes. And the other thing is that if you panic, you know, some people like me, I'm an introvert. I'm talking now, but in terms of because of my spirituality, I can't be around 20 million people. I can't be around all these activities. You know, I like to be by myself. Oh, something's wrong with her. No, you have to learn. I haven't
left the house in 2 years. I can't deal with the outside. I just can't.
Yes. You have to do what makes you feel like you're functioning the best for you because we're not all sheeple. That's why they want us. You have to think for yourself and do what works for you. You know? That's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, that's some good advice. A lot of them things we do, don't we, Holly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of weapons does she get?
Yeah, you can. Charcoal is good too.
What kind of weapons do you get hit with? Holly wants to know.
Everything. Direction.
You get burns on your skin?
All over. They like to jack my face up. Oh boy, They jack me up. You know, those are women haters. They like to jack my face up. They like to jack my skin up. They like to swell me up. So they use biochemical, they use directional energy, they use short burst chem beams, they use ultrasound radiation, they use infrasound radiation. You name it, they use it on me.
Are you completely isolated or do you have any friends at all?
No, I have a lot of friends and I have activities that I do, with the readings and stuff. My clients, because I've been reading some of them for 15 years, they are like my friends. They look out for me. I do Chicago stepping, the dance.
Okay.
So that's a social outlet for me. Yeah, I
The
don't
reason I
stay.
ask you that is, these other TIs think it's hopeless to
No,
interact with people. It's not. I mean, it's
no,
possible, but they
no.
want you so scared that you don't even attempt.
Right. And I've been chased in when I go to sets, they call the dance things sets because I was a dancer when I was younger. They'll hit me in there with my leg so bad I gotta go home. Or I'll see the perp in there and take a picture of him. I'd be cool though. Or I'll go to the car and take a picture. We still gotta, I'm telling you people, the main thing to do is start documenting. You must document because that gives credibility to people who are doubting Thomases because that's the people we got to win over now, the doubting Thomases.
Yeah, and that's why I'm doing these interviews on this channel. And
Yes.
I've had a couple of people say, "Look, I watched your channel, and I didn't believe nothing, but I see these interviews ain't scripted, and I'm starting to believe in this stuff." And that's good because that's what the whole goal of the channel is. I'm not about subscribers who just want me to put on an entertainment show. I'm
Right.
about people who want to learn about targeting, want to help people get their story out. I feel bad about that GPS video I put out. Showed a GPS tracker on the car. I was just showing people how they track people in cars, and it got 4 million views. So now I got 6,000 subscribers, but I've only got 400 views on my videos, so they're not watching my videos. It's just
Well, why were
weird,
they upset over that? I don't understand that. What happened?
Huh?
What happened that upset people with that?
No, I'm just saying,
You turn the comments off.
Yeah. Why didn't they like the GPS thing?
oh, because I turned the comments off. I was
Oh,
getting so many. I had 2,000 comments. My phone,
oh,
and I try to answer every comment I can
right,
on my
right,
channel. So all these comments were irrelevant to targeting, which is what my channel's about. So
right.
yeah,
I
so I cut
got
them
you.
off. It was just too much.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's not an easy, you're under a struggle, you really are. You're doing well. Like I said, I don't judge. I know people who are perps. Like I said, I made him confess. But everybody who's target, I did meet a targeted woman once. I didn't like her. This was a long time ago. I said something ain't right there. She worked in the psychiatric field, so I didn't click, I wasn't trying to be her friend or nothing. It was through another person. And then the person had not such a good experience with her. So I said, that's, whatever. But I try to, I'm not a social butterfly. I have my own thing that I like to do. But if anybody needs advice or something, I'm trying to write a book right now, which
Oh,
it
that'd be
stopped
awesome.
completely, you know, but I just tell people you have to remove the fear factor because this is where how they weaken you. It's they looking for your vulnerable. See, they hit me with mine. My son was my vulnerability. My kids, because I have another one too,
Hmm.
different personality. But you understand, they look for your weakness, and that was my weakness. My son.
You're very strong for hanging on.
It's not easy. I cry. I go in his room because I can't believe he's gone. I ain't touched nothing. Some friends of mine said, "Are you going to get rid of his stuff?" I said, "When I get ready, it's only 3 weeks. Give me a
Right.
break."
It's got to be horrible.
It's it's the and then watching what they did to him. Just telling him get up while he's semi-conscious and can't move. Get up and breathe. Are you crazy? I got it on film.
Hmm.
Sad.
Wow. Yeah.
So, mhm.
Well, I guess we'll wrap it up now.
Okay.
One more thing. If you email hollyspunk@gmail.com for an interview, we will get to you. She's been waiting for like 4 weeks, hadn't you?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to her. So I'm just letting anybody know who's waiting in line. We will get to you, and we do have you scheduled. It's a process on top of us getting hit and trying to manage life and then answer comments. And we got targeted individuals calling us left and right and stuff. And we do our best to take care of everyone we can, but we can't take care of. If we miss you, we'll eventually get to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I really thank you for coming out, and our condolences.
Thank you.
You're a brave woman for coming out and telling your story.
Thank you.
Most people would be probably terrified to do that. Man, I'm just dumbfounded on what to say to you because I can't. And
Ask her, did they ever try to cause her a car accident?
oh, Holly wants to know, have they ever tried to cause you a car accident?
They did swerves and shit. And they had this guy dressed up like Michael Jackson putting on gloves. They have drugged me in a cab and I won the case. They
Wow.
have drug, and I have the license plate. It said Sandbox, Operation Sandbox, and Digger so and so and so. I have the thing. I reported it, but see, you got to know how to report it. You can't report it like a target. You got to report it like, I was in the cab and I got real sick because he had a chemical in there, and I don't know what the chemical was, but I had to get out that cab because he was trying to poison me like that. But you don't say I'm targeted and they put a chemical because you know what they did. But you got to make it. You got to be smart. I won that
Right.
case too.
Yeah, you got to seem like this interview. So you're on point with the stuff. It all sounds viable. You. Oh, I like. We love cats.
Oh, my little baby. Yeah, this is they. This was a miracle, Cat. I'll tell you this. They killed my boobish, my Maine Coon, and when I was in the cab with my son, who's deceased now, to put my Maine Coon to sleep because he had cancer and he was dying, I got a call and they said, "Did you want a kitten?" At the same time, that's perps, but somebody felt sorry for me. They gave me a kitten, so
Oh.
she replaced my boobish, and I have another one named Coochie somewhere.
They say cats are spiritual too.
They are. Yeah, they are. I didn't want this one chipped. They chipped her, and I didn't like it because I see it affects her. She gets loony sometimes. The
Right.
other one isn't chipped. He's more calm, but she gets crazy sometimes and I know it's because of the frequencies.
Yep. Then
Mm,
there's a Deb K has got a thing called Targeted Pets, a call-in conference call for targeted pets.
yes.
Her cat gets targeted very hard, and a lot of people's animals do.
Yes. Because they know
They
we love
beat
the
Holly's
animals.
cat with a baseball bat and left him half alive when she came in, didn't
Oh,
they?
that's
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
I came in from work and she was
Oh.
pulling herself by her front paws. There was blood splattered all over the walls.
And
Oh,
like
that
you
is
said, that was her thing. She loved animals. So
that is terrible. Whoever did that, I pray you don't make another day. I
the
have no
universe is going to
mercy.
get them back.
Yes. Oh, that is horrible to do that. Right, Mimi? We don't like them. Yes, we do. She's giving love looks. She
Well,
say, I don't.
if you would, just I'm going to send you the link.
Okay.
I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.
I really thank you for coming out.
All right.
I'm going to stop